With over 400 celebrity interviews and tons of pop culture nerdiness, Too Opinionated is a safe haven for your inner geek. Find us at meistercon.com or on YouTube under MeisterCon Pod. And please subscribe. It would really help us out. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. Look who I have with me today. It's actor Julian Glover. So welcome, Julian.
Good morning. It's a morning with, well, it's just after midday for me. And there's a great poster across my screen. How do I get rid of that?
Well, let's see. Let's see if we can figure it out.
There's one called Leave Meeting, which I don't want to do. And there's another one saying got it.
They're recording your interview, okay?
Yeah. Okay, good.
All set?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
All right. Well, some of this stuff we gotta have our technical experts come in and help us out.
I've got one.
She's pretty good.
She's a wife.
She does a great job. How long you two been together?
52 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, we've been married for 52 years. We've been together for 54 years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's my second marriage and my last. I won't do another one. I'm getting used to this one.
I think once you get past 50 years, you're settled in.
I think we're sort of settled for it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's terrific. Well, sir, this is such an honor. I've been a fan of yours basically my entire life.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. I hope your life has been a happy one.
It's been pretty good. I think so. I'll tell you the first time I remember seeing you on the television. I was pretty young. I was probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, and we didn't have cable TV yet, but my grandparents did. So I would spend summers with them and get to watch shows that I didn't have access to. So at that time, cable TV was showing reruns of like Space 1999 and the Avengers and some of those shows. And I remember you popping up on there.
I kept on. I think I did every one of that sort of show. The Saint.
The Saint was another one.
Was another one. Randall and Hopkirk. I can't remember what they're called now.
Well, you were on Doctor Who back then.
I've done 2 Doctor Who's. One was in the very, very first series with William, and when I played King Henry the First, King Richard the First of England, and what a nerve! And then much later, I was in what's a sort of classic Doctor Who called City of Death with Tom Baker, and that was a terrific one to do.
Yeah, Tom Baker was my doctor, so that was the one that was on, that I remember growing up. They used to let us watch Doctor Who in school. I guess they thought it was educational enough. They'd let us watch that one.
Educational in what way?
I don't know, but they would roll that. You know how they used to roll the TVs into the classroom, and they'd let us watch Doctor Who. They used to show it on PBS here.
My God, what a wonderful class that was. How great when they rolled in the television. You put away your books and your pencils, sit back, mutter to your friend, this is good, isn't it?
We pretended we were learning something. We didn't want them to take it back out.
How long Tom Baker's scarf was.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it was the best. He was a very distinct Doctor Who.
Yeah, I personally thought we've been through so many of them now, but I thought Tom was the best one.
Me too.
So much intelligence and yet tremendous humor to it, because Tom himself is a zany man, and he was able to bring that zaniness to the part. And he was a wonderful foil to Lalla Ward, the girl.
Yeah.
little creature, and he's huge, and she's sort of playing a sort of schoolgirl, and but playing it with her tongue in her cheek, and it was a very good combo. I thought, very good combo.
Yeah, yeah, I think most people would agree with you. You know, especially those that are in my generation. That's our doctor.
That's the guy. Yeah.
Now there's probably been 15 of them.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, and even and they switched to a woman this last time.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. So they just keep reinventing it.
I mean, it could be anything. It could be an elephant next time.
Yeah.
You know,
the way they've set that up, it could be anybody.
Yeah, absolutely anybody. Black, white, green,
tall,
short, big ears, large ears, small ears, long hair. Could be anything, and it will be anything. There will be one, and you and I will recall this conversation. Absolutely.
I'll say Julian was right. They did pick an elephant for this. So Julian, let me start this way. Tell me a little bit. You've been doing this for so long. What got you started? What made you want to get into the entertainment business?
Well, not the entertainment business. I wanted to be an actor. It was at school. I was at a school in South London, which was founded by one of the great Shakespearean actors called Edward Alleyn, and he founded it as a school for poor boys in the 16th, 17th century in South London. I lived near there, so I went to there, and it was still a school for boys, but it had turned from being what we call public school, which is the opposite of what you call public school. You have to pay for public schools here. You don't have to pay for private schools. It's ridiculous. Anyway, it was what had been a public school, very posh, like Eton or whatever, but it had gone back to the state, so we didn't have to pay for it. Anyway, a young English master came to work there, who'd only just come out of Oxford, and he decided to revive the long neglected habit of producing plays by William Shakespeare in the theatre, in the school. And he decided to do an open-air modern dress production of Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. And he cast me. I'd never done anything like acting. I was rather a shy little boy, would you believe? As Mark Antony. Many of your viewers will know Mark Antony is one of the most wonderful, flamboyant, terrifically entertaining, and just a terrific character to play. And that's the one I started off with. But well, I fell in love, of course, and I went home after that and said, I found the thing that I am, not just the thing I want to be. It's found the thing that I am, and that's
how great. I was just saying, how great, because it's rare to figure that out that young.
And it's always been like that. I know it sounds rather po-faced to say so, but I just know that whether you enjoy my work or whether I enjoy my work or not, this is what I'm here for. And you can't keep me down. You can't hold me down. You can't stop me doing it. And sometimes it's a misery, and sometimes it's so glorious I can't tell you. But that's how I started off. And after school, my parents said yes, yes, as opposed to a lot of other parents who at that time would have said, "Oh my God, my son's going to be an actor." They said, "You know all the problems of being an actor." Well, I didn't quite know them all then, but I knew it was a very insecure profession. But anyway, I went to drama school, and then I did my national service in the army, which I had to do then. We did 2 years, all of us young boys, and then I went off into the ether and wrote 50 letters and got 2 replies, and one of them gave me a job. And that was how it started off.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Do you have a preference? You know, at this time, do you prefer the stage, or do you prefer, like a movie or a TV set?
Absolutely the stage. The stage is, I'm sure you interview lots of actors, and I'm sure they've said the same thing. The stage is the immediate contact with human beings, and filming, I enjoy filming sometimes. Same with theatre work, I sometimes hate it, because usually when I think I'm bad or the show is bad. But the basic thing of, I played King Lear in what's called the Globe Theatre in England, which is a reconstruction of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. A theatre in the round, all made of wood, and with people standing in front of you and all that. And that was one of the most intimate theatrical experiences I've ever had, and ever hope to have. But you're right there, as near, I mean, I'm about 18 inches away from you now. I suppose I'm about 2 feet away from them when I'm on the stage at the Globe. And you see all their faces, their eyes, because it's daylight. There's no artificial lighting there. It's the same light as you. And you see them all in the circles around that. Sometimes people carrying babies and young children holding hands, leaning over the edge of the stage like that, up at your eyes. It's so immediate, and you're there to try to convey all sorts of emotions to them, and sometimes you know you do, and sometimes you know you dismally failed, and that's part of the game.
Yeah, and you're right.
I've been terribly lucky in that theatre has been my main thing always, all for my life.
Yeah,
I've done a great deal of it, but I've managed to intersperse things like the Avengers and the Saint, and all those series as a way to make money as I go. And then, of course, I hit a big one by getting into the big franchises, and which was just luck, you know. And one led to another. So I mean, I know you want to talk about those, but those have put me onto a different, not smart plane or clever dick plane, but onto another place in our theatre. Somebody who you would want to ring up, but not a big star, which is, I consider myself fortunate to be well known, but not a big star. The big stars, quite a lot of them have such terrible lives because they're pestered and plagued, and I lived right next to that fine actor Robert Pattinson. Right, literally where he was born. I've known him since he was 2 days old. And the young women sit outside his house, which is next to mine, waiting for Robert. We say, don't wait for Robert, he's in Los Angeles. And then they say, well, maybe, thank you very much. Maybe his mother will come out. Then his mother has to deal with them. And people,
it's a lot.
Was a great friend of Charlton Heston's at one, well, obviously not now. And he could hardly go into public at all. If we went into restaurants, he had to sit in the corner with his back to the room. He was very polite to people when they did recognize him and came up to him, but very polite and courteous, and gave them autographs and all that. But it's a constant nag for these people, and I'm so glad. I'm very glad to be recognised in the street now. Hello, you're Julian, aren't you? Yes. Did I see you in such and such? Yes. Oh no, that wasn't me. Quite often that happens. Anyway.
Well, you're right. It's the bigger star that you are, the trade-off is you give up more and more of your freedom, because you're kind of trapped into it in some ways.
Yes, you are. When I leave a convention, for instance, I've just come back from Pittsburgh. I've just someone in Pittsburgh, but you leave.
That's on my end of the country.
What?
Pittsburgh. That's 3 hours away from me.
Not far from you, is it?
No.
Just hop into your car and there. Anyway, I was there. It's not the most wonderful city in the world, but I was there. One is under contract to these people, of course, that you don't give autographs and photographs outside the convention. But always when you get to the airport, there are people who know you've just done the convention who want to get freebies from you and photographs and all that.
Yeah.
There have been about 10 of them at Pittsburgh, waiting for me and other people to come out of the convention. And I had to tell them no, and they simply don't understand, except they do understand. And I say, you know the rules here. You've done this so many times. That's why you're here. You find out which people are coming out of the convention, and you wait for their aeroplanes, and you get free photographs and autographs. They said, no, that's not. I said, you know exactly. That's what you do. If I get caught doing this, I've broken my contract, and I had to give my money back from the work that I've done.
Yeah.
But being a star, there were 50 people there at the airport.
Right.
And you have to have minders on each side of you. And I'm so glad I'm not that. I've had a wonderful career because it's been so full of real acting, I call it, in the theatre and television and films and poetry readings and recitals and radio broadcasts. I've done a great deal of, and I've been really lucky, really lucky.
Yeah, you've had just a terrific career. And I think this is a pretty good conversation because I've over the years I've gotten friendly with a lot of different actors, and one of the things that I always tell them is you don't when we're just hanging out, you don't have to be the actor. You can just be yourself. If you're grumpy or you want to tell a story that you can't tell, if you're, out in public or whatever, you can do that stuff. But they struggle a little bit with turning it off because they're so guarded, because they have to be. And then so when they're in private, sometimes it's hard to turn that off and just be yourself.
Yes, sometimes it's not a very good idea to be yourself in front of you. Because of where this broadcast is going.
Well, that's right. Now, this doesn't count. You can be a little guarded with me, but when the cameras are off and you're just over at the house hanging out by the pool, that's the time you should be able to relax.
What pool is that?
We've got a pool. Come on over. You could have come down while you were in Pittsburgh.
I should have done. Sit by a pool. A pool? Oh.
Yeah, you can sit by the pool, relax.
We're going through an absolutely phony heat wave at the moment. A climate change heat wave, which I don't know what we're going to do. Everything's burnt. We just don't know what we're going to do. England, the lush green place which rains all the time, haven't had any rain for 2 months, and
unbelievable. It's terrible.
California is the same, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. Well, even here in West Virginia, we have stayed between 90 and 100 degrees for the last couple of months, and the humidity is almost 100%. It's miserable out.
Awful.
Yeah.
Europe is burning up too, and and there's that Putin bloke burning up Eastern Europe.
Yes, that's terrible. That's it's something that I didn't think that we would see that happen again
in our lifetime. We really thought that the Second World War was the end to world wars, and this is just about to start being a world war. Any minute it could just blow up into a world war. It's local at the moment, but it's not local because it affects the rest of the world now. Because all the grain for the whole of Europe and Africa comes from that country, and he stopped doing it. All the gas. Everything else has rocketed in price because of the electricity and the gas, which we can't get cheaply anymore, and people can't eat in Africa, and people are starving. That bugger doesn't care. He doesn't give a damn, sitting in his Kremlin.
And he's kind of got himself he's in a bind now.
What is this lust for land people have? It doesn't matter. Let people be around and be happy. God, I don't understand it. We've got to have that. That's part of our heritage. Well, we don't want to be part of your heritage, says the Sorry, I'm going to stop now.
Well, once you get going down that road, it gets upsetting very quickly. I completely understand, and we all agree on that. This was something that didn't need to happen.
No, absolutely didn't need to happen. But he's obviously been planning it for a long time.
Oh, yeah, it's been coming for a while. It wasn't something he just woke up one day and said, okay, I'm doing this. He's been planning it.
No, he's been planned and planned. and at the same time they're making a dog's dinner of it. They're terrible at it. They're really bad. All the Russians ever do is the same in the last World War. They just get killed, and thousands of more come and get killed until finally, by sheer numbers, they overwhelm.
That's right.
But the leaders don't give a damn that they get killed. These thousands and thousands of young boys getting killed over there, Russian boys. I mean, let's leave that one, because we'll get into high politics. I don't want to.
That's right. That's right. And it's very upsetting. I think he's got himself in a little bit of a bind, because he does. Part of the reason he doesn't pull back out of there is because of the way it will look. And so he's committed now, so he's just going to keep going. It's scary. Well, okay, so I'll get us back on track. So you were doing, like, you kind of had this career, and then you decided, well, I'm just going to be the bad guy in every movie franchise.
I didn't decide it. My baddie life started with my very first film, which is a film which very few of your viewers will have seen, but I strongly recommend they do, because it's such a lovely jape, lovely film called Tom Jones. And it's the adaptation of a book by somebody called Henry Fielding, 17th century book. It stars Albert Finney as a young man, cheeky young bugger he was, and a lot of really fine actors in it. A glorious film. And in that, I play my first villain on screen, who's a dreadful military man, and that started me off. And when I was doing all those Avengers and Saints and things, I got to the point of saying to the producers, please, you mustn't cast me, because everybody will know that I did it. and I've gone down that line ever since then. So, which has driven me into those big franchises that I've done.
I saw that you were in a movie called Tom Jones, and I was like, well, I don't remember them making a movie about Tom Jones with that. I didn't realize that it was based on a novel. Yeah, it was a different Tom Jones.
Nobody was a singer in our Tom Jones.
I think that would be a very interesting movie if you were playing the villain opposite of Tom Jones, the singer.
I wonder what he would be. I must start imagining it.
Well, so you got to play a James Bond villain, which is that's pretty great. I mean, that's a nice one just to say that you've been.
Well, it's fantastic credit, and it was a joy to do too. I remember that, but I shot my first day, and then I didn't shoot the next day. I wondered why, because I was on the schedule. And I was told, oh no, it's while Cubby Broccoli sees the rushes. If he's not happy with the rushes, you're out. And it's true. And he came back, but thank goodness they came back and they were very pleased with the rushes. So I continued with the job. But that was a great film. I loved working on that. Roger Moore again. Yeah. Worked with several times on the.
Well, he was the Saint, wasn't he? The Saint.
He was the Saint.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was among about half a dozen others. I was considered to take over the part of James Bond at one point. I had to go and do a test. I did a terrible...
You'd have been a very good James Bond, I think.
Well, I would have if I'd had any sort of coaching in it and all that. I did a very bad test. But anyway, all of us knew, we all did it on the same day, our tests. And we were, mixing in the green room and talking about, and we all knew, because Roger had just finished doing The Saint, that he was bound to be asked to do it. And indeed he was. So I was relieved of that responsibility.
That movie, For Your Eyes Only, was one of the first, let's say, PG movies that I was allowed to go to.
Was it?
It was. It was at the theater, and I'd seen some at the house or something if they put them on TV, but at the theater, that was one of the first.
Well, in a way, I'm not surprised at that, because that was when they decided to change a bit of tack and to that the villain or villains, as you think, two of them could be villains at the beginning of the film, don't have hooks on the end of their arms. They don't have hats that they throw at people, or cats on their knees, or any of those things whereby you push a button and the building in South Africa blows up.
Right.
Decided to make the villain or villains into recognizable human beings.
Yeah.
And James Bond, his skill and proficiency meant that he was better at anything than anybody else. So he's a better skier, a better shot put, a better, what's that thing where you go around in a sort of barrel going down? What's it called?
Oh, the bobsled, yeah.
Better jumper, better driver. And that was his skill, was to be better than anybody else. And that for me worked very well. So I'm not surprised, because it wasn't full of horror thing, wasn't full of full of bad attitudes, particularly for me. But it wasn't. So for young kids, how old were you then? About 12?
About 12, yeah.
Yeah, about 12.
Yeah.
That would have been a very good one to start with, because it was about real people. And it was only, as I say, till what was it, half an hour into the film, that you discovered who the villain was. Because Topol and me were equally up for being villains. And I seem to be terribly nice at the beginning. He seems to be rather guilty.
Yep.
And suddenly it changes, and here I am being the villain. And which is the same thing they did with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That I was quite a nice guy to start off with. Then suddenly I turn in my chair and I'm the naughty boy.
That had to be a fun role to play. Just, I mean, you're that one, you got to be with another James Bond, you know, and Harrison Ford. I mean, it was an amazing cast. I think for a lot of us, that's our favorite Indiana Jones movie.
Well, I mean, I shouldn't toss this around, but I can. I'm a critic like anybody else, and I watch films like anybody else, and nothing whatsoever to do with the fact that I was in it. I think that is the best Indiana Jones film, like I think that the Star Wars film I was in, Empire Strikes Back.
Completely agree. I have that argument with my son all the time, because when he was watching, they had went back and were making the newer ones, the prequels. Yeah. With that, and I've always said Empire Strikes Back was always my favorite movie.
Well, the first three, the first three movies were. The later movies were terribly well made. Your son is right about that. It's wonderfully made, and all the special effects absolutely amazing, and performances of the very highest caliber. But they lack the, to use a pretentious word, the heart of the first three, with Alec Guinness in the middle of it, of course.
Right.
Tremendous gravitas to those films. And the whole idea of the Force being something which is outside your control, which is something which guides you, which is such a deep religious belief, was something which upheld those first three films. And one, Empire Strikes Back, completely took what the first film, Star Wars, had given it and developed on that. That was what was so good about it. It used everything, including Harrison Ford, who I think could act anybody I know off the stage. He's such a wonderful actor. And that's what was great about Empire Strikes Back. It drew from the first film. And I think the third one too, but I wasn't in that, so I don't want to talk about
it. But no, for that was, I mean, I love the first one, you know, Star Wars, but that second one really was the one that got me excited, you know, and it ended on a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Oh, it certainly is a cliffhanger. Do you remember the first time you saw the first Star Wars film?
I do.
For us young actors, young people like yourself, you were really young, we were used to seeing things called space films, which were awfully tacky. It didn't work at all. And suddenly that film started with those planes going through the rocks at a million miles an hour, going between, and we all went, oh, Oh, nothing like that had ever happened to us before. And it went on right through the movie. Completely game-changing movie. Like Game of Thrones is a game-changing television presentation.
That's right.
Absolutely unlike anything else that you've ever seen, but reminds you of all sorts of things that you might have liked and not realized you liked when you were younger. Anyway, I talk too much. That's what I'm here for, though, isn't it?
No, that's right. That's what you're here for. But I think that the Star Wars, when it came out, and we'd had lots of science fiction type of movies or space movies, but nothing like that. I mean, it changed an entire generation of kids growing up.
Absolutely. And you should, well, don't go to a convention because you find it very depressing. But still, the people who come to my table are not just old people like me or handsome young men like you. They are small children.
Yeah.
A 6-year-old will come and say, "You were General Veers, weren't you?" Well, yes, I was. And so I have a conversation with their family. So it's all generations are still into Star Wars.
It's because we're passing it down. You know, I watched all of that stuff when my kids were younger, and I thought they were old enough to handle it. You know, that's the stuff we watched.
And so there they are enjoying it, having arguments with their father about which is the best one, which is wonderful.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, my son is the reason that I podcast. See, he came to me. This has been 4 years ago. And he said, "Dad, I want to start a podcast. Nobody will do one with me." And I was like, "I'll do it." You know, I just wanted to spend time with him. Well, he figured out like really quick, he didn't really like talking or being on camera. So he does all the hard stuff. He edits, he does, he promotes, he does all the hard stuff. So I still get to do all that stuff with him. But I figured out that I was the talker of the two of us.
How old is he?
He's 22.
Oh, big boy. And you employ him?
Yeah. We're partners.
No wonder it works.
Yeah, it's been just terrific. Just if it didn't make a dime, it would still be worth it because of the time we've spent so much time together. It's been great. Yeah. So I've got 4 children, all grown. He's the only one that hasn't had kids of his own. So the rest of my kids, they've all got kids of their own. And when they all had them around the same time, and he came to me and he said, "Dad," he said, am I doing something wrong?" And I was like, "No." I said, "You got time. You can wait." You don't have to have kids just because your siblings are having kids. Take your time.
Get up and do a bit of life.
Yeah. So he's such an interesting kid. He's a full-time librarian. You know, he's going to college, and then he does this podcast with me. Pretty busy.
Fantastic. Please give him my regards. I admire him very much already.
Yeah. He's definitely the heart of this podcast, because it would look just terrible if he didn't put the work into it. I better quit, or he'll get the big head. So I better shut up.
Well, you can tell him next podcast you do to put my picture up behind you.
That's what I see. If this is, I've had very few good ideas, and this was one of them. So I was a big Star Trek fan, as long with Star Wars, and I thought, what if we got a bunch of characters and just had them yelling "Khan"? So I had somebody do that for me. But if I was better at Photoshop, that's what I'd do. Every time I had a guest, I'd throw them in the background.
But Star Trek is the only one of the set that I haven't done, and I really wish I could do one of those. And I go on at Patrick about it, saying, "God, must be." He says, "Well, the trouble is, you live in England, Julian. That doesn't count." I said, "Well, you live in England." "Yes, but I'm not when I'm doing Star Wars." Star Trek.
Well, he's doing his own show again. Tell him to throw you in there.
Absolutely. And he's a knight of the realm now. Sir Patrick. Good. Yeah. Good on him. He was a very well-known classical actor before he
I did.
suddenly finds Star Trek. Yeah.
Yeah, the movie I always associate with him is Excalibur, when he was, he was fairly young at that time, but
he shaves his head too.
Yeah,
he must be
same reason. I think it receded on him, so he went away. Now that's his look.
You mean he saw you and thought that's a good idea?
When he started shaving his, I still had hair.
Oh, you did?
I did. Back in the 80s, I had tons of hair. Now my son has that, and I keep telling him, don't get attached to it. So let me ask you, because I don't want to keep you too long, but let me ask you about Game of Thrones. When the books started coming out back in the 90s, that's when I started reading those books. Just unbelievable. The first three especially, just so well written. And then they came out with this show. I couldn't believe it, and did such a terrific job with it. But then there near the end, it got a little controversial with some fans. Some people loved it. Some people really didn't like the ending. Do you have an opinion on it?
Yes.
Do you want to share it?
I thought that they chickened out on the ending.
Yeah.
He was such an obvious choice to take the throne. Handsome, tall, lovely hair, good man, etc., etc. Who should have been on that throne, as far as I'm concerned, is Peter Dinklage. Should have been on that throne with his little legs dangling from it, because he was one of the most intelligent people on the whole series.
Yeah.
I mean, if you only consider the way he killed his father, it's so imaginative.
Right.
do it that way. We had such fun teasing Charles Dance about sitting on the loo with an arrow up your ass. But that's who I would like to. I thought he would have made a wonderful king of that really difficult time and period, and and that group of people. I was very glad that Cersei didn't become king, but I just thought the whole ending, they must have had such torment trying to tie it up. What do we do? And so many voices must have come in and say, better do this, do this. So he should do it. But I thought it was a picking. Have you seen the prequel yet?
I haven't seen it yet. I think we're going to watch it tonight. I think it comes out today, I think, here.
Yes, it came out last week here. I haven't seen it.
It worries me because George isn't writing all of it. I know he's helping with it, but it worries me that it's not his words, because I think that's where the series got into some troubles when they passed him up.
But I don't mind being quoted on this. I foresee disaster for that film. I don't know how you do it now with the knowledge of all those other actors who have played those wonderful parts.
Right.
So it'll seem simply like copying. We either needed another 10 series of Game of Thrones as it was, which it would have well have done.
For sure.
If you could keep the actors going. I mean, it really could have done. Or you need to put a lid on it. It'll make money. This will make money on this. It'll make money because people will be interested, fascinated to see what happened a million years before, whenever it was. But that's all. I don't see them falling in love with the characters and as they did with Game of Thrones, which, as I said earlier on when we were talking, is one of the most original pieces of television. Well, so original that no one can do anything like it again. You can't do another Star Wars. You can't do another Game.
That's right. And they keep trying.
It's been done. But I'm probably wrong. I'm wrong about most things.
Now, I actually think you're probably right. It'll do fine. It'll make money, but it's not going to recapture that, especially those first couple of seasons. Game of Thrones, I mean, just amazing.
Well, I remember when my wife Isla, she's an actress called Isla Blair. Some of your viewers may remember her. Anyway, we went to the cruise screening of the first two. And when I went onto the set, first of all, I thought, this is enormous. This is wonderful. This is going to be very exciting indeed. But I was just an actor in the middle of it, playing my part and doing like all the other actors. I had no idea what the effect of it was going to be. And when that film, the first episode started, I don't know if you remember, it was of that white wall, that white snow wall, going up forever and ever and ever. And at the bottom, there was this little hole, little dark hole like that, out of which came horses and people.
Yeah.
And I turned to Isla, and this isn't, she went, this is already simply amazing. And the whole of the first episode turned out to be just that. And the first episode did what a trick that it did so often, that the what were they called? The white people, no, the white men.
Oh, the White Walkers.
The White Walkers. They were the great terror of the first episode, but you didn't see them again until episode 29.
Yeah.
When they actually came out and did their stuff, being White Walkers, you went, those are the guys in the first. That series did that all the time. It kept referring back to things that happened. And
yeah, you had to pay attention, especially if you hadn't read the books. You'd be completely lost.
And if you did pay attention, you were vastly rewarded.
Yeah.
Because it really was worth paying attention. I mean, it was that sort of watching. One watched Game of Thrones like that. Don't hand me the can of beer, but don't distract me. I want to go and watch it.
Well, it was, but when I was growing up, you didn't have like the streaming services, so you couldn't binge anything. So you had they used to call it like appointment TV, where you had to be at a certain place at a certain time to watch the show. And Game of Thrones, I thought, kind of brought that back. That's the feeling I got with it, because everybody watched it the minute it came out.
Absolutely, they wouldn't go out on a Thursday evening.
That's right.
It was in their particular country. Absolutely, I completely agree with you. Completely agree with you.
It was, well, and they did. Like there's not a ton of shows that nailed the casting as well as Game of Thrones. I mean, just every actor in it, I thought, was perfect for the role that they had.
Wonderfully cast. Wonderfully cast.
Yeah.
Wonderfully cast. Mind you, I got my part by default, really. I, along with the whole of British Actors Equity, went along to audition for it. Even before we knew it was going to be such a smash. Anyway, I auditioned for 2 parts and failed to get them. Okay, well, sad. That's show business.
What was the 2? What were the 2 parts?
Well, I can't remember now, because I didn't. But one part, the part that I got, was already cast with that fine actor Roy Dotrice, and he was going to do it. He was a friend of one of the producers, and Roy got ill, really badly ill. Not at the last moment, but a very few weeks before they started shooting. And so they came to their second choice, which was me. But I can tell this story because fortunately he recovered. And
good.
And thank God for that. And he was awarded a smaller part later on in the series. So he was satisfied. So I can tell the story, thank God. But that's how I got my part. And thank you very much, Roy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it was like, it took me a while to realize that was you. And that was a really nice, I remember that because it was such a nice surprise when I was like, oh.
Yeah, I must say, I do get it at conventions sometimes. People look at my photographs, and I've played so many different sort of people. But then they get to Game of Thrones and they look down at this bearded idiot and they look up at me and go, no. I think, yes, it was me.
Do you have a favorite episode that you were in?
Well, my death one, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, that contains a story, I can tell your viewers. At the end of the penultimate episode, I was so fed up with just being standing around being ticked off by Cersei all the time, her insulting me and me not having anything to do. Also, for me, the best scene in the whole show that I did was Cut, which was the scene you might have seen off outtakes. But I'm on Charlie Dance, Tywin is on the beach fishing, and I come along with some message, and he says, "What's your game?" Or words to that effect, and I say, "Okay, you've sussed me out. I'm going to tell you what my game is. This is what I'm like. This is what I am." And he goes, "Okay, fair enough." So that was a reminder that I'm not just the doddering old fool,
Right.
which was my idea in the first place, I have to tell you. Because at the very beginning, I thought, I'm not going to sit at this table being an old farting fart for the rest of the series. And so they gave me that wonderful thing of, in private life, he was someone who was quite unlike.
Yes, and we all loved that. That was hilarious.
And they did that reminder scene, which was just such a wonderful one to do, to remind the audience of that, and because that was 4 series on.
Right.
And they cut the scene. I was so upset, I can't tell you, because the whole of the series was justified by that scene. Anyway, most of you have seen it now.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's made the rounds.
But I said to them at the end of the penultimate series, I don't want to do anymore. I'm fed up with Cersei kicking me off, and you've cut that scene, which really has upset me. It was quite unnecessary. If you cut for time, you could have cut something else in that episode. This was really important for me, and people are interested in me, and that would have that interest. Anyway, I don't want to do anymore. And they said, "Well, you've got to do it." And I said, "I don't. I've got to do anything." And I'm not contracted to do that. And I said, "Well, we've got this wonderful scene for you." "Oh, have you? Oh, good. So, can I see the scene, please?" "Oh, no, you can't see the scene. You know, this secrecy thing."
Oh, yeah.
I said, "Oh, I can't see the scene. Okay, goodbye. I won't be in the last episode." But eventually, after lots of blah, 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 I got the scene, and indeed it was the death scene.
Yeah.
Which I thought, this is about as good a way as you can go in this series. But the irony of it being that I'm the oldest person in the series, and I'm killed by a lot of children, which is so ironic. And it was such a good idea. And if you're going to leave a series, that's the way to leave it. So I said, yes, I will do this on 2 conditions. One, that I'll give you a list of dates when I'm free, you can name one of those dates. I don't do it when you tell me to do it. You can do it on one of the dates I tell you. And also you pay me 3 times the salary for that episode.
Good for you.
Within 7 minutes, they were back saying accepted. And so I did that with a very good grace. And also I did the thing which pleased me enormously, was Cersei in chains with her hair all cut off, walking down in disgrace. I loved that scene. Absolutely loved it.
We knew it was coming because, those of us that had read the book, so we were anticipating that scene.
Well, I wasn't, and I so enjoyed doing it. I can't tell you. And they had to pay me because it was after we'd all finished the series. They popped in a solo of me, single of me. They had to pay me for a whole episode again. So I well paid, because actually, between you and me and the Gatepost, it did not pay well, that series. It was it took it. The leading players had to wait for the first 4 series to be over because that was their contract. And
right.
We're not doing any more until you pay us Los Angeles money. And they got it. Of course they got it. And our money simply went up by 10% on each series. And it was not good money. But at last, they started paying residuals. So we get a check for, a few £100 every now and again. And, which is so it's paying me back now, but it's paying me back in all sorts of ways because it was such a joyful series to do. Charlie Dance have become great friends as a result of that, and Charlie Dance, who I first met when he was my understudy at Stratford-on-Avon in the Royal Shakespeare Company. When he was my understudy, that brings in its revenges.
Well, he's a terrific actor.
Oh, terrific actor. Terrific actor.
Yeah, he's I thought he's another one that they nailed pretty well, because he definitely brought the character to life, from the books. He's such a devious, character, complicated.
Yeah. And so handsome and so charismatic that people were fascinated by him as a human being. I mean, the actors, the characters within the series were not just the viewers, but the viewers, in particular the girl, that's almost swoon when he comes onto the screen. So gorgeous. Listen, we've got to wrap it up in a minute.
Yeah. I wanted to get through Game of Thrones, which, by the way, I thought Cersei, from an actress side of it, she nailed it. She made you hate that character.
She was superb and such a nice woman.
Yeah.
Such a very good woman, a very good actress indeed. Her character just made me sick. And
all of us
had to live through that. Funnily enough, I'm going off this evening to Glasgow to do a convention, and the young actor
very nice
played Joffrey, that absolutely awful person who is one of the most charming men you've ever met in your life. He's going to be there, so I shall be saying hello to him.
Oh, that's terrific. I had heard that about him, that he is just the best human being, which is the complete opposite of his character.
Complete opposite. And he did that, so he's not a professional actor, still is not a professional actor. He was studying in Dublin University, he was Trinity, philosophy. And he used the money from Star Wars to get through his university term, period. Which is just
amazing.
Great. And now he goes out on the occasional one of these things and makes a great deal of money signing it.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Such a lovely boy. Such an essentially good human being, The sort of person when he comes into the room, you feel nice because he's there. That sort of guy.
That's what I've heard. I've talked to a few people that know him, say he's just the best.
And I that's been a rule of my life, that only really nice people can play villains. So you remember that.
Maybe I'd make a good villain. So Julian, thank you so much. I appreciate the time so much. We could talk all day long, and I still wouldn't hit everything that you've done.
No, I'm afraid you wouldn't.
No, but this has been. Oh, I do want to mention that my mother said to tell you that the role she loved you in was Remington Steele.
There's another one of those I did.
Yeah.
Hello, mother, Michael's mother. Hello, Julian. That happened because at that period of time, the dollar was worth about nothing, and it was much cheaper to make shows over here. And they came over for one episode only of Remington Steele.
Yeah.
Which was when I first met Piers, who also is one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet.
He's pretty good James Bond too.
Oh, he was a lovely James Bond. And that's when I first met him, and it was all done in London, and I had a very nice part in it. And I think I was a policeman. I don't think I was a villain in that one.
Yeah.
What a day.
Yeah, that sounds right. It's been a while since I've seen those Remington Steeles, but I watched those when they were on, because that was like mid-'80s. I was a teenager by then, so I was watching those.
Don't go on about it, how young you were. Anyway.
So last thing, Julian, before you go, are you working on anything currently that we can kind of keep an eye out for?
Not at the moment, but a film I was in, which I actually saw the completed version of, finished to cut, which I made last autumn, is a film with Cate Blanchett. Which is, well, I'm sticking my neck out here, but I think it's a masterpiece. It's a lot of money spent on it, art film. So it's a really upmarket art film.
Yeah.
She plays the greatest conductor in the world, the conductor of the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra. And it is such, and it's directed by Todd Field. And look him up. And absolutely, I think it's an amazing film. But of course, as I say, I'm always wrong about things. But watch.
Well, now I'll keep an eye out for that one. That sounds good.
More common viewing. Immediately after I did that, when I was playing an ex-conductor with bow ties and very, very smart, suits and dinner jackets and things, I went straight from that to do an episode of a thing called Willow. Willow was a film which was made 100 years ago with small people. And
that was George Lucas.
And it was very successful. And now Disney are doing a series of it.
Yeah.
Of them being old people, which is terrific, very good idea. And I went in playing about the most unsubtle person compared to what I just done with Todd Field. I'm playing someone called an old salt, a neighbor who was all like that and talked like that and had a long beard and hair all the way out here. Really subtle performance.
I'm actually really looking forward to that show.
That's coming out, and I'm in the penultimate episode of that.
Oh, very nice.
Keep your eyes open for that.
You're staying pretty busy.
Well, bless the Lord. Bless the Lord. I'm very old now, but I'm still keeping body and soul together, and my family. That's another thing I should say about my life. My private life has been so lucky. I first married the wonderful actress Dame Eileen Atkins, who's known to theatre goers mostly, but you've seen her in lots of films. But I'm now married to Isla Blair for 52 years, who is the best marriage I could possibly have. And I would say that if she wasn't ever going to see this, and they brought me a son who is just the most wonderful son, like your boy is, who has given me 2 granddaughters who are the loves of my life, and they're 13 and 16 now. And that's how I ended up my life, with that family all around me, and not living far away, and still making a bit of money as I go along. So
pretty good life.
I'm a lucky man.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Okay.
I've always said that as great as being a parent is, I think being a grandparent's even better.
It's fantastic. You don't have to wipe their bottoms.
Yes. Yeah, you get to spoil them and send them home.
What you do have to do is give them sweeties, which they're not allowed at home.
Right.
That's why they want to come to you. And literally true. We've got a big jar of sweeties up on a very high shelf. I think at the age of about 4 years old, the first one discovered that and managed to get up there for the sweeties. No, I mean all sorts of other ways too. It's wonderful having grandchildren.
Yeah.
So you've got that to look forward to. When your boy has his first child, you might even grow your hair again. To look like a grandfather.
Well, Julian, thank you so much. This has just been the best for me.
It's been terrific for me too. So I've really enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, sir. Okay, hold on one second. Oh, how much fun was that? That was like bucket list interview for me. I'm such a fan. He's such a nice gentleman, but he kept me on task. When it was time to wrap up, he let me know. But that was amazing. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. He has done so many just amazing roles, and I suspect I've never seen him perform theater. He's probably even better on a stage. I have a feeling that he's just amazing. I would knight him. I'm surprised that he's not Sir Julian yet. So maybe we can start that petition and get that passed around. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again this week. I definitely don't take you for granted. I got up early for this one. So 12:30 on London time, 7:30 in the morning for me. So I got up. I really didn't get up early. I got up at the same time, but I got moving quicker to get this one completed before I start my work day. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you haven't done so yet, we could really use the help. We want to keep bringing these great people and interviews to you. It really helps us out if we have the subscribers to go to them and say, would you like to do the show? This is what I can bring. This is the people watching the show. That really helps us out. And it's free. You just click subscribe And then it gives you access to all of our interviews. We're closing in on 500 now. So if you could go to YouTube, MeisterCon Pod, and subscribe, really help us out. You can also get all of those episodes, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. And if we're doing anything in studio, this past week we had the cast from Monster Squad, the movie, the great cult movie from the 80s. We're in studio. That one you'll see very soon. So we had the group from Monster Squad. If we're doing any of that in studio, that'll be on the website. If we're covering a convention, we haven't made it to Glasgow yet, but if we're covering a convention, that'll be on the website. If we're doing something remotely, that'll also be there. So you can kind of keep up with what we have going on. And there's a lot of fun stuff on there. Brett's got a really great, geeky, well-written blog that's on there. It's just terrific. You can check that out. And then check out all our episodes. So thank you guys so much. Until next time, bye, everybody.